Welcome to Ask Maureen, where we cover historical image analysis, genealogy, and how to work with your family photo collection. I'm Maureen Taylor, the photo detective, and I'll try to answer your questions. Good afternoon. This is Maureen Taylor and my podcast and Facebook Live called The Photo Detective. Thank you very much for joining for me today. I've had a wildly exciting day, which is why I'm having trouble talking. But anyway, I'm glad we're here and I have a lot to talk about today. Now, remember, if you don't have time to watch this live, you can watch the replay on the Photo Detective Facebook page, and anyone can join my Photo Detective Facebook page. You can like the page, you can follow the page. And then if you prefer to listen to this Facebook Live as a podcast, you can do that as well. It's all available to you. Now, the platform I use for my Facebook Live is BeLive. And I love BeLive for the simple reason that people can react and give me comments based on what we're talking about. So it's an interactive platform and it's a lot of fun to do. So I have an agenda for today, and Susan Hayes is saying hi. I'll wave back to her. And I can share your comments on my screen, and I hope that you're going to actually have some questions about what we're going to talk about. So first off, I'm going to talk about eBay and how you can use eBay to find family things. And if you've never done this before, it's really, really simple. So I'm going to demo that. And then I think later I'll make a little video on how to do it. It takes like 2 minutes to search for something and then sign up for an alert. I get alerts on the things that I collect. I get an alert almost every day, depending on whether new things are available or not. And the reason I decided to focus on finding photographs on eBay or finding family memorabilia is because, again, there was something on eBay that probably should be in a museum. It is original manuscript books of the First Light Infantry from this little state of Rhode Island. And it's a private organization, which means the state archive doesn't have any right to sort of say, hey, you're selling this. It should really be in our collection. So they have something called replevin, and replevin is when something belongs in a state archive or a state institution, and they know it was like an official state document, and then they can it's called replevin, where they decide to ask for it back. That it was maybe taken illegally or taken for some other reason. But these minute books for the First Light Infantry are not like that. So unfortunately, they're on eBay for a whopping $17,000+. And I have emailed all of the people I can think of in these historical organizations in Rhode Island that might be interested, and everybody goes, a lot of money. But I'm hoping maybe there will be a way to save these original minute books from the early 19th century, because it would be fabulous. So anyway, that was what started me on thinking about the eBay and searching for family things. And because while I don't find family things with the last name of Taylor, I get all kinds of junk in that saved search. So I've sort of stopped with that. I'd have to make it a little more tailor-made to make a joke. The other thing I want to talk about, and we'll talk about this first, is a new themes on my blog. And I hope that you will watch them or listen to them or read them on whatever form they take, because some of them will be videos and some of them will be blog posts, and some of them are just sort of memes. And I'm calling it, there are two themes. One theme is outside the frame, which is where I study a photograph, either one I own or one in my family collection, and look at the full story of it. So it's not just about the date of when the picture was taken or who's in the picture, But what really is the story? And that has been what I've talked about for my entire career, which is every family photo tells a story. Sometimes it's a really significant story, sometimes it's a small story, and sometimes you really have to dig around for the story, but there's more of that. And then the other blog theme that I'm working on is called Finding a Home For. So I've been collecting photographs for somewhere around 20 years. And many of the photos I collect for um, examples in my talk, some of them, not all of them, have names on the back. And so I feel this sense of responsibility, and I know a lot of you feel the same way, which is you want those family photos to end up in a collection where someone will love it and care for it because it is their family. So that's the sort of idea behind finding a home for. And this month, the finding a home for the Hollenbergs, which is a photo I found in an antique shop in Illinois. And I love it because they're all standing in front of the building, and there were a few names on the photo, and the barn has a date on it of 1916. So I hope you'll check that out. But today's outside the frame is that up there. This is my paternal grandmother, and I use this as a meme this week on my social media. And it says most of the photo story was outside the frame. Watch for unexpected photo clues. So I actually remember this. This was my only living uh, grandmother that I remember. My maternal grandmother died when I was 1, and both of my grandfathers were already deceased. But I do remember Nana, and she was an interesting woman. She had her own way of speaking. She called yellow, yella. She called the living room her parlor. I mean, she was definitely a woman of a different century. And she was born in the 19th century. And I even remember this day because I remember the excitement of my mom bustling around and planning a surprise birthday party for my grandmother. And so here we have a shout out from Sandy Dunbar, who said she met me in Burlington and live about 20 miles from Roseville. And yes, that is where the Hollenbergs are from. So read that blog post, Sandy, if you haven't done it already. But anyway, I remember the excitement around planning this surprise birthday party for my Nana. It was a significant one. I believe it was her either her 70th or 75th. I was kind of small, but anyway, we had the whole family over. My aunts and uncles that lived in the area. Some of them didn't, but the two that did were there, and some of my mom's relatives were there, and of course we were there. And my mom brought out the birthday cake. So this is my mom's arms coming in with the birthday cake and all ablaze with the candles. And she set it down in front of my grandmother. And my grandmother burst into tears. And while that seems like a reasonable thing to do when you're surprised, the tears went on for quite a while. And when she sort of caught her breath, my mom asked her uh, what was wrong. And this is really sad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be sad today, but it was a really sad moment because my grandmother said, "This is the very first birthday cake I've ever had." And it makes me teary just thinking about it. Because, of course, as growing up as kids, we always had birthday cakes. It was our birthday, you had a birthday cake. Didn't necessarily have a birthday party, but we had a birthday cake in the family. But to have this be my grandmother's very first birthday cake, and she really didn't talk about it any further than that. And a few years later, my grandmother passed on, and I was very interested in family history anyway, even as a youngster. And I had asked my grandmother to tell me about her family, and she wouldn't. She just said, "Your grandfather's family is so much more interesting. I really don't have anything to say about my family." And if you're a genealogist, then you know that the opposite was true. You know that, in fact, her family history had to be something that she really couldn't share with a little kid. And in fact, that is the truth. But what happened was my mom was very supportive, and is very supportive of, I'm very lucky that she's still around, very supportive of my interest in family history. And of course, photography and the family photographs is, really how she got me started with all of it. But we went off to a city hall, and I was working on the family history, and I said, "Mom, we really have to go to the city hall, and we have to look up these birth records and marriage records and all of that, and let's work on Nana's family," which was not her family, but her mother-in-law. And so she drove me over to the city hall, and we started digging in the records, and we found, so this is where it comes out of, so here we have this photograph of this moment, just a minute or an afternoon in family history, my grandmother's birthday. But then when we started looking at the family history, it was even more important because my grandmother's one statement, which was, "This is my very first birthday cake," started to make more sense to all of us. So my grandmother was the not the oldest, but there were a lot of people in her families. I think 5 or 6 kids. I don't have that in front of me, which I should have. But this wildly exciting day has distracted me, and nothing good, just a little car issue. And so we were looking for documents relating to her family, and what we found surprised us. So we were looking for her parents' marriage certificate, and we find the marriage certificate, and it says the name of the bride and the name of the groom, and then it says how many times married. And my grandfather put 0. My great grandfather put 0. And my great grandmother put 1. And we stepped back from that I remember this day. We stepped back from the register, and my mom said, "Whoa, she was married before?" And she was. And you know how this happens. You're researching your family history. You have a sense of just, what you think, and in fact, then you find out you don't know anything at all. And that's really what happened. If I'm rambling, I hope that I'm not rambling. Hope you can all identify with this kind of thing. But then we dug a little further. And so with that information, we dug into the marriage records to see if we could find her first marriage. And it was there. And my great grandmother was in fact married when she was a teenager. She wasn't very old, 17, I think. And she was married to this man who I have spent a lot of time looking for. He did not die, uh, but what we found when we were looking for him was that the two of them had a baby together, and that the baby was born 9 days after the wedding, and that the baby died. So it appears my great grandmother had a secret that obviously my great grandfather knew that she'd been married before because there was the little one. But as far as I know, I can't find a divorce record. And I think that first husband headed for the hills. I'm expecting to find him somewhere on the West Coast somewhere. But anyway, that was the story. And so when we put it all together, and then my mom recollected all these things that my grandmother had said about her mother, about how mean she was to the girls and how she was so strict and she wouldn't let them go out. And all of this kind of thing. It all made sense. And so she was not a very happy person. She had lost her first child. She had a very difficult life with my great grandfather. They really didn't have any money. And then he died at the age of 46. He got pneumonia and died, leaving her with a whole lot of children, including one that when I was looking for this whole story, I discovered that she was actually, my great grandmother was pregnant with her last child when her husband died. And then it just within a few months, my grandmother, who was one of the oldest children, got married very quickly to my grandfather and said, that was enough of that. She'd had enough of living with her mother. So anyway, this is all about how you think you have a photo and it captures a moment, and then you go way, way beyond that. We have a great suggestion here from a listener, Susan Hayes. She heard me talk about those Rhode Island books, and she wonders if we can put together a collection from across the genealogy community to buy those Rhode Island books. That would be awesome, but it is $17,000 plus, and that is a lot of money to put together. But Susan, if you want to be the ringleader on this, I know a whole lot of people in Rhode Island who'd be very grateful. So we'll take you up on that if you can figure out a way to do this. And Lori is a follower and a colleague and a friend, and she's the one who actually told me about those books. So let's go to eBay and let's look at that. We've had enough of sadness. Let's look for happy things. Does anybody have any comments for me on this Outside the Frame series that I'm doing, or the Finding the Family for the Hollenbergs, or the Finding the Family for other photos that I have in my collection? And I have some really cool ones to show you in the future. I have one with the when I bought it at Brimfield last year, and I haven't had a chance to work on it. Brimfield is a big outdoor antique market, and when you flip it over, whoever owned the photo put the entire family tree on the back, which is very cool. And Deborah Stock, yes, here we are. She says, people were so much more reticent to discuss personal things in the past, weren't they? Yes, indeed. Plus, I was only like 7 or 8 or 9 at the most when I was asking my grandmother all those family history questions. Not something she really wanted to talk about, I think. But yes, they were much more ashamed of some things than we are today. I still wish I could find that first husband, though. I've looked everywhere for him. I'm wondering if he gave them an alias. So are we ready for eBay? I'm ready for eBay. So we're going to go to eBay, and I'm going to go to my screen. So basically, you don't need an account to go to eBay. You can search. It's when you want to set up alerts that you must have an account. Now, it doesn't cost anything to have an eBay account. You can bid and not win things. You can look at things. I look at a lot of things. I don't buy everything I see. I would go broke if I did that. So let's just start with a simple search. And I'm going to search for Taylor Family just so you can see what comes up. And I've done this already. So you search for what you're searching for. And then if you can, some things are listed. I'll give you, this is sort of the 50-cent tour of eBay. You search for something, and then this one, obviously at the top, says Taylor Family History by J. Montgomery Seaver, 1971. And the price is $14.45 or the best offer, which means that this particular seller says they want you to counter what they've put on the website. And of course, genealogy is spelled incorrectly, but there we go. So you can counter and say, I really think this book is only worth $12, and see what they say, and you might actually win it for that. Taylor Family. We can narrow this down over here on the left to fiction and literature, nonfiction books. How about antiquarian and collectible books? Let's see what else is in there. We don't have any photographs, so we'll go to antiquarian and collectible books. There's Eli Taylor's Family Magazine or Monthly Abstract of General Knowledge. There's the Tennessee Taylor, Happy Family, Governors, and different things. Some of them say, look, these are all best offer. Some of them say buy it now. And so that means you can actually click through. We'll click on this one and click buy it now. And you have to pay for it now when you do that. Others have a bid. These don't have any bids on them. But let's see if we can search something else. So let's search Salt Lake City. And there's lots of things in Salt Lake City, but also let's go to Salt Lake City, Collectible Images. So here we have Salt Lake City Collectible Images. Phone is ringing. And this is all buy it now again. That's much more popular these days. And we can even narrow that down some. We can narrow that down to collect to stereographs. Let's see if there's any stereographs. We're gonna buy it now. 0 bids. So here's one. Gordon Academy, Salt Lake City. It's a 1908 yearbook. And you can make a bid on it. If you want, place your bid, add it to your watch list, which then gives you emails telling you what are people bidding on it, and then it'll notify you if somebody's going to overbid you. It tells you there are 7 minutes and 42 seconds left, and no one has bid. So if you wanted this and you put in $15, you could probably get it, and it doesn't show you that anybody's even watching it. So that's a good thing if you're interested in that. And why would you want it? Because there are lots of pictures of people who went to the Gordon School, and those might be your ancestors. But say you wanted to look for Salt Lake City stereographs. Now, a stereograph is 2 nearly identical images, and you look at them through a stereo viewer. So let's go to Be Live, again, just to make sure we don't have any more comments. Let's go back to Salt Lake City stereographs. And you see this little thing up here where it says save this search. There's a little heart. If you click that, it will say, I have saved it and I will receive an email alert. Now I can say how often I want to receive the email alerts. I get alerts every single day. But you can, I believe, set the frequency. And you can even look, and that's all you do is click that and again get the things daily so that you can keep up with, let's do a search. Somebody give me a family name to search for on eBay. What would you like me to search for? Come on. How about, should we look for Lindgren? Because I see Denise Lindgren on there. Let's do that. Maybe nothing. Family women's stickers, creative memories. A real photo postcard of the Lindgren Blombergsen family, pre-owned. So you have to say something about how it is owned or damaged or whatever. It's $8 and you can buy it now. So Denise, if this is your family, you can put that in there and you can save this search so it comes to your inbox. That's really all there is to saving a search on eBay. Now those Rhode Island books I was talking about, they came up. We're going to go back and back and back because I know they came up on my main screen as something I recently viewed. Isn't that a beautiful chair I was looking at? There's all my little Providence things. But here's those Rhode Island 1st Light Infantry Company records, 1818 to 1873. And here's what they look like on the inside. So it's 4 volumes of the minutes, and it covers 60 something years of the proceedings. So it's very cool. I don't know how much detail, but it definitely lists the members of this 1st Light Infantry, which is pretty cool. So if Sarah decides that she can get together a community, that would be fabulous. Oh, somebody wants us to look for Bacchus. So let's look for Bacchus or Diggler Family. There's a Bacchus genealogy book, tree book, a press photo of Jim Bacchus. And you can narrow this down if you're just looking for one thing or another, and somebody wanted us to search for Diggler. So there's lots of ways that you can refine this search as well. So when you go in and we want to make sure that your search is the most specific search so that you don't end up like with Taylor Family and get tons of junk. There's a press photo for Merchant Diggler of Blount County, Alabama. He's a melon farmer, and if that were your relative, you could buy it for $12.88. So there's that. The The sellers all have ratings, so you'll know who's good to buy from and who isn't. This person actually says they have other press photos, and where they get these, I don't know. Buy two, get one free. So maybe they have other pictures from Blount County, Alabama. So that's really what I have to say about eBay. I hope that you're on my email newsletter list. There's a lot of news going around these days about the GDPR, which is the new European standard for signing up for newsletters. So if you're on my newsletter list, very shortly you will receive something from me that says you must reconfirm to be on my list. And I'm hoping that you will want to do that. And you have to check the box. So it's all about active checking. Everybody's really nervous about it because we spent years building our newsletter lists, and I don't put anyone on my newsletter list unless you've signed a sheet or you have checked a box on my website. But in order to be compliant, we have to send out another reminder to everyone. So I hope you'll watch for that. I also hope that you will join me on medium.com. If you don't know Medium, it is an online blog site, and I have been posting I posted a couple of articles. I'm going to post more. But the way you get followers on Medium is by clapping. And the way you clap, there's a little hand next to the article. So I hope that you will do that if you like the piece that I've written. The piece this week is called "What Do You See in a Family Photo?" And it's where I do one of those outside the frame things, and I talk about outside the margins, and I talk about this wedding photo of my parents and who's in it and who's left and how you tell a good story and the building blocks of that. I also hope if any of you are in Southern California that you stop by the Southern California Genealogical Jamboree. I am going there this year. I will have a booth in the exhibit hall, and please stop by and say hello because I have this new feature when I'm on the road. It's called On the Road with the Photo Detective, and I interview people about their family photographs that they've brought for me to look at. And so you might end up in a little 1-minute video on my website or Instagram page, and it's a lot of fun because it also gives you an insight as to what kinds of things people bring to me. Everything from photographs to research projects that sort of go back to when I was a research librarian. People want to know how I can help them do that. If you're working on a family history, I can help you by consulting on that as well. Also, people bring me things to look at. It's sort of like Antiques Roadshow. It's a whole lot more than just pictures. So stop by and say hello. And thank you so much for joining me for the Photo Detective on Facebook Live. Anybody have any last minute questions for me before we say goodbye? Are you all going to go on eBay? See if you can find some lost family history? I hope you do. That's just one of the places you can look. You can also look at regular auction house catalogs, and you probably should. There's an awful lot of things out there on the market. Thank you so much. See you next time. Thank you for watching and listening. You can submit your questions for future episodes using the Ask Maureen button on MaureenTaylor.com or through any of my social media contacts. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram as The Photo Detective and on Facebook at Maureen Photo Detective. I hope you'll come back for the next show. Don't forget to send me your questions.